Follow these easy steps today, and you can probably save yourself some heartaches tomorrow. Stick around, and we'll get right to it. Real quick, before we get going, I've got to give a shout out to these guys. They're my latest patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the channel, I'll leave a link to Patreon down in the description below. Hey, welcome back, guys. Jason KM4ACK. If you're around computers long enough, sooner or later there is going to be some sort of failure, either software related or hardware related. We can do regular backups to help combat that. Maybe you get data corrupted on your Linux machine, or maybe you just install something that kind of goes sideways on you. Either way, if you take a few minutes to set up the proper backup strategy, you can save yourselves a lot of heartaches in the future. Let's go ahead and jump over to the desktop and let me walk you through these really quick steps. All right, so this is super simple to do and shouldn't take you more than about 10 minutes to get this fired up and going the first time. I'm going to open the menu right here and I'm just going to start typing TimeShift. Once I see that, I'm going to click on TimeShift. It will want your sudo password because it needs access to basically everything in order to make this happen. Now, you'll see that I already have several different backups already on this system. But let me walk you guys through the settings you would see if you just came into this. So you would normally have to select your snapshot type. I have always chosen rsync. It's the one I'm comfortable with, the one I'm familiar with, so that's the one I'm going to use. The next thing you'll have to do is pick the location for your backups. Now, if all you've got available is your internal hard drive, well, go ahead and use that. It is highly recommended, though, that you put this on some sort of an external drive. In the case of this particular laptop, I've got a 128 gig micro SD card inserted, and that's the one that you see chosen right here where all of my backups live. That way, if I did have a complete hard drive failure, I still have that backup on the micro SD card. The next thing we're going to want to take a look at is the schedule. Now, this is entirely up to you. I find that keeping 3 weeks worth of backups along with 3 months worth of backups has always had me covered. So that allows me to fall back just a little ways with those weekly backups if I need to, or if I need to go back a little bit further, I can go back to one of the monthly backups. If you prefer, you can do this hourly or daily. It all depends on your needs, but I think weekly and monthly is sufficient enough. Now let's talk about backing up the user home directories, because there is some pros and cons to either way you go about this. If you don't include all of the files in your home directory, then you can do a restoration and not lose any of the files that you've created in your home directory since the last backup. Personally, since I know that I'm going to only have at most a week's worth of loss in files, I choose to include everything in this backup. That way, if I do have a catastrophic drive failure, I've got everything backed up. But just know you would lose the files that you had created since your last backup. So entirely depends on how you want to set yours up. Under filters here, just leave those as default. We want to grab everything. And then under the miscellaneous tab, this is just the date format that you're going to use to put a timestamp on your backups. So those are all of the settings that you're going to have to deal with. And then you can go ahead and create a manual backup at any given point in time by simply clicking the big button right up here in the top left. Now, if you ever do have some sort of failure with a drive, it's good to have a live copy of Mint 22 or Ubuntu if that's what you're using. It's good to have a live image of that on a USB drive. So I keep this one with me pretty much all the time, even when I'm out and about into the field. So I've got a OS that I can boot into if I need to. Once you've booted into this, The only thing you'll need to do, assuming that your backups are on the SD card, the only thing you really need to do is boot into this, open TimeShift, select the backup that you want to restore, and then go ahead and click that restore button. The system will go through analyzing all of the files that have changed and what needs to be restored to that previous backup, and then it will go through the sequence of restoring that backup to your hard drive. And honestly, this has saved me multiple times. So what I like to do before I'm testing some sort of new software is, even though I've got those weekly and those monthly backups, I'll go ahead and create a manual backup right before I start testing. That way, if something doesn't go exactly the way I expected it to, I've got a known good point to revert back to. Now, one more thing I do want to point out over here is you can add comments over here in this far right column after you've created a backup. And we also get tags. The one with O, I believe, are the manual ones that I have created. The ones with W are the weekly backups. Oh, there we go. I've got a hover tip here. So the O is on demand, the W is weekly, and the M is monthly. Now, this is a test system, so it's not booted up very often, and that's why you're not seeing any monthly backups in this list. But once you have created, or once a backup has been created, you can simply come over here, highlight that, click again, and it will allow you to make some notes right here in this field. That way you can always remember exactly where you were when this happened. So if you'll notice back here on November the 4th, this was a new install of this particular system. So I got it installed. I did all the updates that I needed to the system, and then I created that new backup. So, and then put some notes out there that it is a clean OS. Maybe I should have put a clean OS with all the updates in my notes, but I pretty much know what that is, and that's the only one that counts. Guys, do this today. It's very simple. It runs in the background. Your system is always automatically being backed up, and this can save you a lot of grief should you find yourself in a position that you need to revert back to one of those backups. If you found today's information helpful, be sure to give us a thumbs up before you head off. We will see you guys on the next one. Until then, 7-3.